Topic is globalization and agricultural growth. We shall discuss what is globalization and what is the impact of globalization on agricultural growth in India. Globalization means international integration of markets for capital and goods. For integration of markets, nations are required to reduce tariffs, non-tariff barriers on trade, remove subsidies to different sectors. Domestic policies also have to change in accordance with opening of the economy. There is a need for internal liberalization in the form of low corporate taxation, tight fiscal policy and deregulation. The measures towards globalization started before the establishment of WTO. The move towards opening of economies started prior to formation of WTO. World economic slowdown and debt crisis in developing economies in the 80s laid the foundation for opening of the economies. World Bank and IMF granted loans to developing countries to tackle their problem of debt crisis, and some of the conditions were imposed on the borrowers. These conditions were called as strategic adjustment programs. The programs required changes in the structure of the economy, from public to private, from restriction to openness, which ultimately integrates domestic economy to the world economy. Some of the examples of strategic adjustment programs were reduction and evolution of export taxes and quotas, reduction in tariffs and removal of all the non-tariff barriers like quotas and import licenses, elimination of internal market regulations, other type of controls and restrictions on the private sector in the product and input market for agriculture, decline in public production and infrastructure services including research and extension, product distribution, input supplies and agricultural credit. WTO was established in 1995. There were various agreements which were signed. One of the agreements which related to agriculture is known as Agreement on Agriculture. The basic idea was to advance the trade in agricultural goods and promote agricultural growth. The main points of agricultural agreement were all quantitative restrictions and other non-tariff barriers on trade of agricultural commodities are to be removed and replaced by tariffs. There was an upper bound on tariff also. Advanced economies were required to reduce tariffs by an average of 36% and a minimum of 15% on each commodity. Developing economies were required to reduce tariffs by 15% on an average and a minimum of 10% on each commodity by 2004. Total fiscal expenditure on export subsidies to be cut by 36% in advanced economies and 24% in developing economies. Volume of subsidized exports is to be cut by 21% in advanced economies and by 14% in developing economies by 2004. In reality, developing economies had no export subsidies in the first place. These were the agreements which were signed under the Agreement on Agriculture. Now we come to the rationale of Agreement on Agriculture or rationale of agricultural globalization. The rationale given for globalization was that developing economies will have more access to the advanced economies. When subsidies given to the producers by the advanced economies will be removed, the agricultural prices will go up. When the subsidies given for exports in advanced economies are eliminated, prices of agricultural goods in developed economies will increase. This will promote export of agricultural goods from developing economies to advanced economies. The reason is that removal of these subsidies and other non-tariff barriers will make developing economies more competitive in the advanced economies as far as the agricultural market is concerned. Prior to this agreement, in advanced economies, there were subsidies to the producers, there were export subsidies for agricultural exports. As a result, agricultural output increased in advanced economies. On the other hand, in developing economies, there were control on production and distribution of agricultural goods. As a result, the output was low in developing economies. Now, these two policies in different countries were actually distorting the trade. From removal of these policies, it was expected that trade will increase and export of agricultural goods from developing economies to advanced economies will increase. Liberalization, because of higher prices in the international market, there will be incentive in developing economies to increase output and increase exports. This was the argument given in favor of agreement on agriculture. Now we shall look at what actually happened to growth of agriculture in India after the signing of agreement on agriculture. Or in other words, what happened to growth of agriculture in India after liberalization, or in other words, globalization. The first thing that we find is the decline in public investment in agriculture. The data shows that after economic reforms, public expenditure and investment in agriculture have drastically declined due to the policy of minimum intervention by the government. This can be confirmed from Table 4. The table shows that the slowdown of growth in investment in agriculture has led to a fall in the growth rate of irrigated area from 2.5% during 1980-97 to 0.5% during 2006. Secondly, there is a decline in gross capital formation in agriculture. Public investment in infrastructure such as irrigation, rural electricity, rural transport network, and in agriculture research, agriculture extension have declined. Agriculture research and agricultural extension are key to growth in agriculture. This is one of the reasons that in spite of the price support in the agriculture, what we find that after 2000, the rate of growth of agriculture has declined. This can be confirmed from Table 5. There was a significant slowdown of public expenditure in the specific sectors, particularly in agricultural research and extension. Our history shows that government invested heavily in research and extension prior to 1990. No private sector was investing in agricultural research and extension because agricultural research and extension was thought to be a public good. So private sector didn't have any interest because it was not possible to get sufficient profits from spending money on agricultural research and agricultural extension. So government was the only authority which was investing heavily in the agricultural research and extension. In 1990 and 2000, there was decline in rate of growth of investment in agricultural research and extension compared to earlier decades. Growth rate of public spending in agricultural research was 6.3% in 1980, whereas it was 4.8% in 1990 and 2000. Figures for agricultural extension show that growth rate of expenditure on agricultural extension was 7% in 1980s. It declined to 2% in 1990 to 2000. Apart from decline in public expenditure in agriculture, there has been other cuts. Government subsidies to agriculture have also declined. Since liberalization, cost of farm inputs have increased due to cut in government subsidies. There has also been decline in concessional credit. After economic reforms, subsidies on fertilizer, pesticides have been reduced. Power tariffs have been revised upward. As a result, there is a rise in input prices. In the early 1990s, 1.6% to 1.9% of GDP was spent on input subsidies, which fell roughly to 1.3% to 1.4% between 2003 and 2006. On the other hand, share of input subsidies in the 15 agricultural GDP shows a general rise from mid-90s. In 93-94, the share of input subsidies in the 15 agricultural GDP was 6.7%, while corresponding figure for 2005-2006 went up to 9.4%. However, all of the increase in the share of total input subsidy to agricultural GDP after the mid-1990s have originated from an increase in electricity subsidy. In fact, share of fertilizer subsidy and irrigation subsidy in agricultural GDP fell after 1990s and particularly in 2000. Another significant thing that has happened after liberalization is disappearance of public agencies supplying farm inputs. Prior to liberalization, government agencies were supplying seeds, fertilizers, pesticides at concessional rates and controlled prices. They supplied quality inputs to farmers. These facilities were available to small and medium farmers also. After the liberalization, these inputs now are being supplied by the private sector. The private sector is charging very high prices for these inputs. Sometimes the quality of inputs supplied by the private sector is also doubtful. States have reduced their role in supplying inputs at controlled prices. Multinational corporations are now supplying seeds at high prices. An increase in the price of inputs has caused decline in the growth of consumption of farm inputs. Growth of consumption of NPK declined from 8.2% in 1980-91 to 2.5% during 1990-97, 2.3% during 1996-2006. There has been deceleration in the electricity consumed in the agricultural sector. This withering away of public agencies supplying inputs has badly affected the small and medium farmers. Agricultural growth not only depends upon prices of the output, but they also depend upon the prices of inputs and quality of inputs. If quality inputs are available at reasonable prices to small and medium farmers, then there is an incentive to them to try for growth in agriculture. Another thing that should be noted after liberalization is lack of easy and low-cost loans. After liberalization, the government has reduced the concessional loans facility to farmers. Small and medium farmers cannot get loans easily from institutional sources. They depend on moneylenders and pay a very high interest rate. According to 59th survey of the National Sample Survey, 27% of the total farm households have access to institutional credit. It means 73% of the farm households depend on private moneylenders for credit. The private money lenders charge very high interest rate, and the supply of credit is also very small. Because of this situation, most of the people who are affected by the shortage of credit are the small farmers, the medium farmers, and people belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities, because they also come into the category of small and medium farmers. Now we look at the impact on farm prices. Under WTO system, imports have been liberalized, quantitative restrictions have been removed, import duties have been reduced. This has depressed the farm prices, particularly the prices of cash crops. Production has become less profitable or unprofitable. The crops which have been affected by liberalization are cotton, pepper, edible oils, tea and coffee. Duties on tea and coffee have also been reduced. As a result, prices in domestic market have declined. Profits of the farmers have declined, and in some cases, some people have suffered losses. Prices of some of the products are less than what they were November 2007. Decline in the prices of cotton and coffee in the international market have depressed exports. This has depressed domestic prices and affected the production. In many cases, farmers who were unable to cover the costs and repay the loans, they have committed suicides. Incidence of suicide has been very high in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka and Chhattisgarh, where large areas are under cash crops. There are changes in trade also due to decline in prices. Prior to 90s, 2% of the domestic cotton production was imported. It rose to 10% after 90s. As far as oilseed imports are concerned, we used to import 1 million tons of oilseeds in 95-96. Whereas after 95, the import of oilseeds increased to 4 million tons. And this has remained same till then. The fluctuations in domestic prices due to liberalization has led to changes in crop pattern. These changes are economically unviable and ecologically unsound. Example of misleading price signals have led to growth of vanilla crop in Kerala and soybean in Maharashtra. These crops are not in accordance with the climatic and soil conditions of these states. But changes in cropping pattern has occurred because of the changes in the international prices of these commodities. The fall in the prices of crops combined with the price fluctuation significantly eroded the competitiveness of Indian farmers from exports in the post-WTO period. Table 7 and 8 show that there is a long-term decline in share of agriculture in total world trade. It also shows long-term decline in trade of developing countries and advanced countries for each of the commodity groups. Agricultural exports made up 7.4% of world trade in 1960 at current prices. In 1990, the agricultural exports were only 2.5% of the world trade. Advanced economies are much bigger agricultural exporters today than developing economies. Share of advanced economies in agricultural exports is 2.5 times larger than that of developing economies. Another change that we see in the world trade is cereal trade constitutes 13% of the total agricultural trade, whereas the other food category commodities constitute 67%. In terms of destination, intra-advanced economy trade in agriculture is far larger then the trade between advanced economies and developing economies. Advanced economies are major buyers of agricultural products from other advanced economies. As far as developing economies are concerned, the agricultural trade constitutes less than 10% of the total agricultural trade. From all the above, we can make certain conclusion. One, that liberalization provides opportunities for taking benefit from integration of world markets. The country can specialize in those commodities in which it has comparative advantage. The country can export goods to other countries where prices are higher, and this will give incentives to the farmers to increase exports. But there are challenges of globalization also. Globalization provides opportunities for increasing the output and increasing the income. Because of integration of markets, the country can specialize in those commodities where it is more efficient compared to other countries. Market integration equalizes prices. This helps those countries where the cost is low to export their product. But there is another thing that should be kept in mind. There are challenges of globalization also. Whether globalization is leading to growth in the agricultural sector or not. Secondly, whether the benefits of globalization are reaching the small and medium farmers. From the above discussion, we make certain conclusions that apart from liberalizing the economy, deregulation of the economy, complementary steps are also required which promote agricultural growth. These steps include availability of agricultural inputs at reasonable prices and availability of agricultural inputs of certain quality. Another thing that is required for agricultural growth is availability of credit to small and medium farmers. Then there is also need for expansion of agricultural research and agricultural extension. In this field, the importance of role of government cannot be denied because private sector will not enter into this field. This is essential for agricultural growth. Another thing that is required as far as the domestic policy is concerned, steps are required to be taken by the government to ensure that the benefits of globalization and liberalization accrue to small farmers and medium farmers. It should not be like this, that the benefits of globalization accrue to large farmers only because they are able to buy quality seeds and other agricultural inputs from the market. These quality seeds and other agricultural inputs should be supplied by the government till markets are in a position to supply these items at reasonable prices. Only then globalization and liberalization will be successful and help in agricultural growth.